Show you right here.
Well, you got a dead hooker in the trunk.
What? No, it can't be.
Yes, it was. It was a dead hooker.
It wasn't a dead hooker!
Pal, I know a dead hooker when I see one.
Welcome to Cal's Cinema. This is Dirty Work.
I've never seen so many dead hookers in all my life.
Lord knows I have.
Does Dirty Work, the late great Norm MacDonald's only leading role film, deserve to be better regarded than it is? That's the question this review will hopefully answer for you, and will also give the late 90s comedy a score out of 10. Released in 1998, Dirty Work was just one in a long line of Saturday Night Live star comedy vehicles. In fact, despite not being produced by NBC, besides Norm, the cast is packed with fellow SNL alumni, one in particular who predictably steals the show. More on that later.
Yeah, well, things could be worse, you know. I could have got my nose bit off by a Saigon whore.
While never quite reaching the superstardom levels of, say, Adam Sandler or Will Ferrell, from his start on SNL in 1993 through until his death from cancer in 2021, MacDonald was legendary, especially among fellow comedians, as a funny man who was both effortlessly cool and understated, but could expertly switch to the ludicrous and irreverent on a dime. Proof of this can be seen, for example, on any of his stand-up specials or his many appearances on Conan O'Brien over the years.
That was a 40-minute story! Good God!
I know, that was way out of line.
Norm was never one to exactly play by the rules. For example, he was famously fired from Saturday Night Live, the reason for which is largely believed to be because of Norm's insistence on telling O.J. Simpson trial jokes on his Weekend Update desk bit. Perhaps it's this rebellious streak and unwillingness to simply do as he was told that is to blame for the fact that Norm's movie career wasn't as big as it could or should have been. He would go on to have a solid career in supporting roles, voice acting and cameos, along with landing his own self-titled network show and eventually even multiple podcast series. But back then, after leaving SNL, MacDonald went to work on his only leading role, Dirty Work.
Dirty work. Dirty work. Dirty work.
Dirty Work is a low-budget comedy from the 90s, and in a lot of ways it pretty much follows that standard template, so we aren't going to worry about spoilers going on from here. But as always, if you'd like to check the film out and come back, then go right ahead.
I've spent the night in jail.
Yeah, when you were in jail, man, those guys
The Black Comedy, which was the directorial debut of Bob Saget, follows Norm's character Mitch as a typical 90s slacker type who, along with best friend Sam, played by Artie Lange, strikes upon the idea of offering a service for hire for revenge and sabotage. Joining MacDonald and Lange are Monk's Natalie Teeger, Trailer Howard as Kathy, Jack Warden as Pops, and Christopher McDonald in a role not far removed from his iconic turn as Shooter McGavin in Adam Sandler's Happy Gilmore. Sandler himself makes a cameo as the Devil, seen by Mitch while in a delirious fever brought on by experimental brownies. Other cameos include such comedy greats as Don Rickles, Chevy Chase, David Cockner, and the immortally funny Chris Farley in what turned out to be his last ever role as Jimmy, the nose-bitten victim of
The Saigon whore!
Farley's typically unhinged role is by far the highlight of the film and is reason alone to watch it.
Jimmy, let's go.
Hold on, I'm talking to my friend here. Jeez, sometimes you gotta remind the hen who the rooster is.
Mitch and Sam must race against the clock to raise 50 grand so that their, as it turns out, joint father can have a timely heart transplant by being bumped up the list by a morally dubious doctor with gambling debts, which may or may not be a nod to Norm's own struggles with betting. And if that description seems like an overly complicated setup to the plot of the film, that's because it is, although very on brand for Norm. What follows is not even a full 90 minutes of antics as Sam and Mitch get into trouble, albeit for the right reasons, before Mitch manages to finally raise enough cash, get revenge on the rich bad guy, and get the girl all in one go before the credits roll.
Oh, the opera. Yes, we are ruining that. Sam, now!
Don't let me down, boys. Run, fly! Fly away! No!
using skunks to heighten the atmosphere of squalor and despair. Brilliant! Bravo! Bravo!
Apart from some of the pranks, the ones that land at least, there isn't really much else memorable to mention about Dirty Work. The film feels like it could have easily been a vehicle for Adam Sandler, David Spade, Rob Schneider, or even Alan Covert of Grandma's Boy. What I mean to say is that the 90s slacker comedy feels formulaic, half-baked, and oddly a little afraid to push its own boundaries, in spite of its talented cast and Norm's writing chops. In an interview years later in 2008, MacDonald confirmed as much for the last point, when he revealed that Dirty Work was originally devised and written as a fully R-rated comedy before the studio, Hughes Entertainment, yes, that Hughes of Planes, Trains and Automobiles and Home Alone fame, stepped in and cut more than half of the material. The result is a neutered, listless comedy that struggles to pad its own short 82 minutes of runtime. As a fan of Norm's, I'm reluctant to say that he even seems lost in carrying his own film. While no one is expecting an Oscar-worthy performance from a stand-up in a comedy movie, it's still clear that MacDonald portrays Mitch as oddly disconnected and even uninterested in what's going on. At the time, audiences seemed turned off by the film, and it bombed at the box office as well as receiving poor reviews.
And worst of all, I take crap from absolutely everybody.
So, what's the verdict on Dirty Work? Well, after all that, it probably comes as no surprise that the film won't score highly. As a fan of Norm's, I went into watching Dirty Work with high hopes and really wanted to like the film. Norm's own style of understated comedy flashes through here and there, and brilliant cameos from Chevy Chase and Chris Farley bring some genuine chuckles to keep the film plodding along. But all in all, the film feels like a wasted opportunity in what could have been a comedy classic had it not been toned down. As for how much of the blame for this lies with the studio is unknown, but it's probable that Hughes Entertainment wanted to keep the comedy more in line with their family-friendly past releases. Dirty Work is still watchable despite these flaws, but sadly not very rewatchable, and for that reason, Dirty Work gets a score of 6.6 out of 10. As sad as I am to give Dirty Work such a low score, there seems to be something appropriate about Norm's film getting a middle-of-the-road score, and I'm sure the old chunk of coal would just grin and shrug it off. For the film to even have been made after his unceremonious firing from SNL is a miracle in itself, let alone for Norm to work on it while struggling with the anguish of being a deeply closeted gay guy.
What? You're a gay man?
I'm not gay. I said I'm deeply closeted. I'm as straight as an arrow.
So you're a gay man who won't admit it?
No. Do you know what deeply closeted means?
Yeah.
It means a man who will not acknowledge that he's gay.
Yes.
So I'm telling you, I'm not gay.
So, what did you think of Dirty Work? Were you left disappointed by the black comedy, or do you think I'm being too harsh on Norm's one and only leading man role? You can let me know in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe, and come back again to Cal's Cinema.